Hi guys, this video is part 2 of the texture fiber tutorial. So if you haven't watched the first part yet, make sure to do that first, because in this lesson we're going to finish the artworks we started earlier. Here's the dried raise piece. Some of its elements go beyond the edge of the canvas they've dried, but they are still soft and I'd like to reinforce them. To do that, I'm using a product called casting compound. You can find it on our website. Make sure you don't confuse it with modeling compound. You'll need casting compound specifically. It's a mineral resin that comes in 2 parts. Once mixed, it hardens into something like plastic, even a bit ceramic in texture. After mixing the 2 components well, I apply it to the back of the canvas, right where the elements are sticking out, to give them strength and stability. Leave it for at least 40 minutes to fully cure. And once it's cured, the construction becomes solid and secure, no risk of bending or damage. Now I'm moving on to smoothing the surface. I like the fiber texture, so I won't fully cover it. I just want to make it a little smoother before I start painting. For that, I'm using light texture paste, applying it gently with a soft brush directly from the jar, just to prep the surface for the next step. This paste has a very light texture, but at the same time it's thicker than any acrylic paint. Because it's white, you can use it not only to smooth the surface, but also to tint the piece slightly and create your first base layer for coloring. So essentially, you're both evening out the surface and creating a priming layer. If you plan to work in light tones, this step is especially important. The most crucial part here is to cover all the folds and texture thoroughly, no clumps, no uneven areas. Smooth everything out with a brush. I carefully coat the entire surface, including the plain canvas areas without texture fiber, so the whole piece has one even tone and consistent texture. This becomes my primer layer before adding any color. And before we move on to the second stage, coloring, we need to let everything dry completely. The next step is working with acrylic medium and acrylic inks. I'll also be using a slow drying medium. The acrylic medium I'm using is semi-transparent and I'll tint it using our acrylic inks. I pour out 2 separate portions. These 2 will be tinted in different shades. One will be white and the other will be mocha brown. I mix each with acrylic inks. As you can see, the medium has a very pleasant creamy texture, perfect for creating gradients and smooth transitions. It's light but also covers well if you add enough pigment. Note, the medium looks ivory before it dries, but once it's dry it becomes semi-transparent. Here's a reference of the result we're aiming for, this soft gradient from mocha to white. That's what we're going to recreate using just 2 shades. Now I start painting with the mocha tone. I apply it in the corner of the canvas, where I want the darkest part. It's important that the paint isn't too transparent. Try to add enough colorant so it covers the surface in just 1 layer. If it's too light, just add a bit more ink until you get a rich, opaque tone. Keep in mind, the color will appear lighter while wet and slightly deepen as it dries. Next, I begin blending upward. I load my brush with pure white and begin stretching the color higher and higher. I keep adding fresh white as I move up to gradually create the transition. This medium is absolutely perfect for gradients. The creamy, almost oily consistency makes blending so easy. It dries slowly, giving you time to work and adjust. I wouldn't recommend any other product for this kind of effect, especially if you're a beginner working with fast-drying acrylics. As a professional artist, I truly value that. That's why I created this medium, to make the process easier and smoother. And if you feel you need even more flexibility, you can add a little extra slow-drying medium directly into your color mix to give you even more time to blend. That slow transition you're seeing, the seamless blend, that's all thanks to the medium. It's an excellent base for smooth and satisfying work. I gradually move toward the top part of the canvas, making the color lighter and lighter. I pay close attention to painting the edges and every single fold. This is really important. Then I go back to the bottom corner to deepen the contrast with a bit more mocha shade and adjust the edges again. At this point, you could actually stop. The piece already has a beautiful gradient going from dark to light. But I want to take it a step further and create a transition from dark to light and then back to dark again. So at the very top, I start adding mocha, carefully spreading it with a brush across both the canvas and the texture fiber. The center stays light, and now we've created a more complex gradient, dark, light, dark. This makes the painting more dynamic and visually rich. The most important thing now is to keep everything smooth and clean, without any brush marks. Once I'm happy with the blend, I add a touch of white to the raised areas just to enhance the volume. I pull the white upward and downward, focusing mostly on the center. To get even softer blending, I mix some slow drying medium into the white ink. It gives a buttery texture, and I can even blend it out with my fingers, just like oil pastel. This trick is super helpful, especially if you want soft transitions and no dry brush effect. As an artist, I truly appreciate this texture, that's why I created this medium in the first place. You can also add more slow drying medium if needed. It helps the paint stretch longer and gives you extra time to work. Thanks to this medium, you get smooth, elegant gradients with a professional finish. This is how I finish working on coloring this piece by creating a gradient, a complex gradient. These types of gradients can be done using 3 colors or even more, depending on the size of your artwork. In this case, the artwork is not very large, so I limited myself to 2 colors, but I made the gradient more complex by adding several transitions, from dark to light and from light to dark. Here's the result I got. What do you think? Do you like this kind of gradient? Be sure to try working with gradients. It's always very interesting, and the artworks turn out very beautiful and full of depth. Let's move on to the next way of coating the texture fiber artwork. In the previous lesson, I created a layer using texture paste and a piping bag. That way, I made the surface not only smoother but also added volume. This same technique can be repeated again after drying to add even more volume. Keep in mind that you can add more volume this way again, but I will limit myself to just one time. I'm happy with the amount of volume I already have. Now I just want to add more smoothness, so I'm going to make another layer using a brush. I'm using light texture paste and spreading it evenly with a brush, creating another layer before coloring, specifically using texture paste. Again, you can repeat this to add more volume, but I'm doing it now to increase smoothness. In the video, I'm speeding up the process a little so it doesn't feel too long. I think you understand how it works. The most important thing is to cover everything evenly and smooth it out. Texture paste will help you with that. It's super smooth, the consistency makes it really easy to work with. Aim for smoothness. Yes, you can sand it later, but the better you apply it now, the smoother it will turn out, and the fewer additional steps you'll need to take later. So you won't need to sand it again. But again, if needed, you can always do that after it dries. I'm smoothing out all the folds very thoroughly, making sure everything is nice and even. Here's what I have as a result. Now it's important to give the layer time to dry. If the layer was thick, you may need to wait until the next day for it to dry completely before painting over it. Once the paste is completely dry, it's time to prepare the paint for coating. I'm mixing the color using acrylic medium and acrylic inks in the shades blush and white. And for the finish, I want to use shimmering acrylic inks. Right now, I'm mixing a marshmallow shade by combining the medium and the inks. It's important to make this color opaque. Add enough ink into the medium so that the white underneath doesn't show through. That's crucial so we don't have to apply another layer. I begin covering the whole canvas the same way I applied white paste earlier, smoothing everything very thoroughly to avoid any bumps or uneven areas. This is already the final coat, so it needs to be as smooth as possible. I cover the entire canvas in this shade and leave it to dry completely. It's really important to let the canvas dry fully. For the next layer, I'll be using shimmering acrylic ink, specifically a transparent pearlescent shade gold. I'll mix it with pouring medium. This is an ultra glossy medium that gives a glossy finish, and it doesn't interfere with the shimmer of the inks. It keeps them bright and luminous. When it dries, this medium creates a transparent glossy finish that looks like varnish. I love it and I highly recommend it. I'll be painting only the areas where there is texture fiber. This way, the painting will appear as if it's covered in two different shades, even though I'm only using one. One part will just shimmer more. You can already see under the brush how the pearlescent ink glows on the surface. Here's the final result after drying. The painting looks very unique, shimmering like water in the light of a sunset. You should definitely try this method. It's really beautiful and interesting. But to get the best effect, make your final layer super smooth. Really take your time to get that smoothness. So today I've shown you 2 ways to color artworks made with texture fiber. Pick the one you like the most. Leave your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like this video, it helps us a lot to keep making more and more inspiring content for you. And for those who want to learn how to create texture fiber vases like the one I'm showing in the video, join our Telegram channel. The full step-by-step video tutorial is already available there. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Bye.